Welcome to Dangerous Runner. I'm Ralph. For about 6 months now, I've been using heart rate based training. I find it a real asset for me in achieving my goals of long runs and improving my endurance. And I get questions from time to time on my channel from subscribers asking me about things that I do with heart rate training. So I thought I'd share this video with you today, going in a little more detail about what I do, understand a little bit about heart rate training, and perhaps it's something that might help you. But before we even get into that, we need to understand what is max heart rate and how do we determine it. Well, max heart rate is simply as it says, it's the maximum amount of beats per minute your heart can do in vigorous exercise. Now, it's very age related and it's not fitness related. In other words, just because my max heart rate's higher than yours doesn't mean I'm more fit. It's really very person dependent, depending on your physiology and your age and so forth. Even gender can make a difference. So often, I'm sure when you were growing up or when you're in school and going to the gym and so forth, you always heard a max heart rate is 220 minus your age. That's kind of the traditional equation. This is actually called the Fox equation, but don't use that. That's not any value to you. And then once you hit 40, some people say the Tanaka equation is a pretty good equation, which is 70% of your age subtracted from 208. You know what? Don't use that one either. And then finally, once you're 60, some people like the Hunt equation, which is 64% of your age subtracted from 211. We're going to throw that one out too. Do you know why? I don't want you using any equation, because these equations are not based on science. They're just based on observational data. These people go out and gather a bunch of data on people, and test them, get their max heart rate, and you try to fit an equation to them. But you know as well as I do, every 50-year-old does not have the same max heart rate. Gender can make a difference. All kinds of things can make a difference. So the answer is, like in anything of this kind of nature, where there's not a lot of science, you need to go out and get data. You need to do your own test. So let me change my clothes and we'll go do that. Now, measuring your own maximum heart rate will take about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on how many intervals you got to run. Now, it does involve some intense running because you're going to be doing intervals. And if you're not used to doing intervals or intense running, please be sure to get a medical clearance from your healthcare provider. I don't want anybody getting hurt trying to figure out their max heart rate. So make sure you're physically okay to do intervals. So start off and do an easy run, easy jog for about 20 minutes. It's okay to do run, walk, run with this. The idea is to get your body warmed up, get your joints warmed up, get your heart rate up something over 100 beats per minute, low 100s, 110s to 120s, just so it's ready for some intense work. I'm at about minute 12 into my 20-minute run. So let me finish that and then we'll go on to the next step. So at the end of your 20-minute run, set your interval timer for a 2-minute run and 1-minute walk. Now your pace during these 2 minutes is not all out, but it needs to be hard enough that you really are working hard, but you can finish the 2 minutes. I want you to have a little bit of gas left in the 2 minutes, but not a lot. Then walk for a minute. Now, depending on your fitness level, 1-minute walk may be fine. It may be too much, maybe too short. Feel free to adjust that. But take a brief rest, get your heart rate back down, and then repeat these intervals. Keep repeating the 2 and the 1 and checking your heart rate each time. And when you find out your heart rate is plateauing, it's not getting any higher with an interval, you're done. Now that might take 4 intervals, might take 6, but keep repeating those intervals until you get a max heart rate. And then you're done. So let's go back inside. So what's your max heart rate? Now you have a value. Now one thing I kind of mentioned that when I was out there on the road is you can adjust those intervals to suit you. If you want to run a little shorter but a little harder, walk a little longer or walk a little less, you can do that. The idea is to get that hard, intense interval work and keep repeating that to get your heart rate up. So now that you have your heart rate, now you're ready to do some heart rate training. Now there's basically 5 heart rate zones. Zone 1 is 50 to 60%, and they're stepped by 10% increments. In other words, zone 1 is 50 to 60%, zone 2 is 60 to 70, zone 3 is 70 to 80, zone 4, the threshold zone, is 80 to 90, and zone 5 is the maximum zone, is 90 to 100% of your max heart rate. I'll put some links down below for more information and videos on that. Now the key thing for me though is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic, and generally accepted that once you get above 80% of your max heart rate, once you get into zone 4 and zone 5, you're running anaerobically. And when you're running anaerobically, that means your lactate's going to build up much faster. You're going to hit the wall and get tired more quickly. If you're running below 80%, that's generally considered aerobic running, and that lactate's not going to build up quite as quick. So I kind of only pay attention to that 80% number. And the 80% number for me, I think, is 141 or 142. My Garmin running watch kind of tracks that for me, and I can see that. So you can study all those zones and use them as you want, but the key thing for me me, and I think key thing for you is know where your 80% of your max heart rate is. So next thing we need to ask ourselves is, what's the purpose of your run today? Are you just going to go out and do an easy short run? Or are you trying to increase your endurance? Or are you trying to do a long run? So for me, I look at it in two ways. If I want to increase my endurance, I want to get up in zone 4. Zone 4 is actually called the threshold run. So you're trying to increase your lactate threshold. That means you want to be in that 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. So though I will purposely run and vary my run walk intervals, so I'm spending more time up in that 89%. I try to avoid zone 5, which is 90 to 100%. That's just going to tire you out. Sometimes it's unavoidable if you're running up a hill, for example, or you're getting, you're really pushing yourself. So if you want to increase your endurance, increase your lactate threshold, spend time above that 8% max heart rate value, whatever that is. Now, that way I use my heart rate is I'm doing long runs, whether it be a race like a half marathon I did recently or just out doing a long run, because I like to keep my heart rate below that 80%. I like to feel like I'm running aerobically. Now, the 80% line is, the 80% between aerobic and anaerobic, that's, kind of like drawn in sand. That, I would not take that as at face value, saying, oh, if I'm at 81%, I'm running anaerobically, but if I'm at 79%, I'm running aerobically. Well, don't get quite that anal with it, but use that as a general guideline. So I try to stay below 80% if I'm trying to do a long run or doing, a half marathon. And the reason for that is not only tiredness and finishing a race, but the tiredness I feel the next day. I find that when I push myself and I spend more time above 80% in zone 4, that the next day after a half marathon or long run, I'm really exhausted. I've got that really tired feeling inside. So that's why I started looking at my running to try and stay below the 80% to help with that tiredness. I just want to get the distance. I don't care how long it takes me. I have nothing to prove. Now, I've had some questions about pace. Well, how do I adjust my pace? Well, think of pace and heart rate like your car of RPMs and speed. You can't really control both. You can pick one or the other. For example, if you pick your speed, RPM will be what it is. If you go up a hill, the RPMs in your car might speed up because you're going to give it more gas to keep your speed up, and you're going to turn the engine over much faster. Likewise, if you go downhill, you may go faster, but your RPMs will go down. Same thing with pace. Do not really pay attention to pace. If you want to train with heart rate, look on your heart rate. So how do I use my heart rate zone if I'm doing a long run and really don't care about pace? So I'll do my run, walk, run. Now my Garmin watch, I have a Garmin Forerunner 245. It gives me a color code based on the heart rate zone I'm in. If it's blue or green, I know I'm in zones 1, 2, or 3. If it goes orange, I know I'm in zone 4. If it goes red, I know I'm in zone 5. So I can glance at my watch and say, oh, I'm in blue or green. I know I'm running aerobically. That's good. But if I look at my watch and it's orange, or heaven forbid, red, then I will probably stop running and start walking and wait for my heart rate to come down, and then I'll start up again. So, and then when I start up again, if I've had problems staying in zones 1, 2, or 3 and that blue or green on my watch, I'll slow down a little bit, back off my pace. I don't really care what the pace number is. I don't care if it's a 10-minute mile or a 15-minute mile. I don't care what that number is. I'll just slow down. Or if I'm running too much in the blue zone where I know I'm really low heart rate and I want a little higher, I'll speed up a little bit. So I don't really care what pace is. I'll speed up or slow down to keep myself either in below that 80% number or above that 80% number. So if I were to kind of summarize this, know your max heart rate and know where that 80% line is. You don't necessarily need a running watch with color-coded zones, but know where that 80% number is. And if you want to do long runs, try and stay below that 80% and just adjust your pace, adjust your run walk to stay below that. Doesn't matter what your pace is, just speed up or slow down to stay below that 80% number. On the other hand, if you want to improve your lactate threshold and improve your endurance, you want to get above that 80% number. Spend time above 80% number. That's how you improve that. So I hope I was able to be a little more clear about what I do. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, please scroll down and hit the like icon. If you're new here, I'm all about running for a runner of any age, but especially if you're an older runner, say over the age of 40. I'd love to have you stick around, hit that subscribe button. In any event, thanks for watching the video and happy running.